What's up, y'all? It's Dr. Paul with a non-conservation video for Liberty Hill Comics, where I share my passion and over 40 years experience comic book collecting, investing, and conservation with you. Today, we have a fun, one-and-done video for you with a twist. We're going to be evaluating this Golden Age comic book for a full conservation, and I'm going to walk you through the decision-making process I use for conservation projects and why, in this particular instance, I decided to give this 86-year-old comic book a simple clean and press and submission to CGC. Part of the analysis is historical significance, fair market value, and rarity, so we'll be reviewing those as well. If that sounds like fun, stick around. Before we get started, what is this comic book and why should we care? This is Crackajack Funnies #1, cover dated June 1938. That is the exact month that the Golden Age started, because Action Comics #1 is also cover dated June of 1938. While both Crackajack Funnies #1 and Action Comics #1 are anthology series, Crackajack Funnies #1 has more in common with its Platinum Age peers than it does with comics of the Golden Age. Its contents are a mix of new material and reprinted newspaper funny page strips from the newspaper syndicate NEA, or Newspaper Enterprise Association. NEA was founded in 1902 and still exists today, making it the oldest surviving newspaper syndicate. Crackajack Funnies ran for 42 issues from June of 1938 to January of 1942, so its content was all generated essentially before the United States entered World War II. It does feature a few key issues, including the first appearance of the Red Rider in comic books in issue number 9, yes, the Red Rider of Daisy Red Rider fame, the first appearance of the Owl in issue 25, and the first appearance of Andy Panda in issue number 39. My favorite cover in the series is this great, moody cover featuring the owl from issue number 32, reminiscent of the great pulps, created by Golden Age great Frank Thomas and rivaling some of the best pre-Robin Batman covers of the early Golden Age. Crackajack Funnies #1 is a rare book, even by Golden Age standards. There are only 24 universal copies in the CGC census, with a median grade of 7.0. Without a big first appearance of its own, this comic book does not command a huge price tag. Although desirable from a historical perspective, demand for this issue is tepid, so even though supply is very low, low-grade copies can be acquired for a few $100s. In fact, I picked this copy up at auction from Hip Comics for $256.99 plus shipping. It was advertised by the seller as good, very good, or 3.0 on the 10-point scale. After inspecting it, I agreed with the estimate, but thought there was some room for improvement, starting with a dry clean and removal of these pencil marks on the cover. So, what is the fair market value of this book if it was graded by a third party? Go Collect doesn't have any sales for a 3.0. In fact, there are no 3.0 or 3.5s in the census. But a 4.0 sold in the last year, so that should be a good benchmark for us. In November of 2023, there was an eBay fixed price sale of a 4.0 for $800 plus shipping and taxes. Here are the grader's notes for that copy, which presents a bit better than ours does today, but has many of the same flaws. Based on this sale, I think we could conclude that a 3.0 slabbed by a third party would have a fair market value around $600, and a 3.5 perhaps $700. With CGC's sale on the vintage tier submissions, if we bundle our shipping, we can get this book graded for just about $30 all in. That could leave us with about $300 to $400 upside if we did just a simple dry clean and press on this comic book, which we could accomplish in just a few hours of our spare time and amounts to approximately a doubling of our equity in this book. As you know from the intro, that is what I decided to do. You've seen me dry clean and press many books on the channel over the last few years. So rather than give you a detailed description of what I'm doing, I'm going to just show you while I talk about the decision to not do a full conservation. I've sped up the video to 4x. If you are looking for detailed explanation of my materials and methods, you are in luck. I have literally hundreds of videos in my back catalog in which I go into those details, which will be easy for you to find from my landing page on YouTube. For now, just enjoy the visuals because although I've performed these tasks many times on camera, you've never seen me perform them on an 86-year-old comic book before. So why not perform a full conservation? Well, while I think this comic would benefit from a full conservation, let me walk you through the cost-benefit analysis I performed that led me to ultimately decide not to do a full conservation on this comic. To do a full conservation, we'd still have to perform the dry clean. Then we'd have to disassemble this comic book, wash and deacidify all of the wraps, and this is an early Golden Age comic, so there are 17 wraps. Then we'd have to perform any stain mitigation with chemical or photo bleaching or both, perform any tear seals or reinforcements, dry all of the pages, press all of the wraps, and then reassemble all of the book. Materials to perform these steps are not free, and we'd have a lot of time invested. Days worth of my spare time and risk along the way. As careful as we are, we could tear a page. We could get ink blade on a page. We could fade a page. We could break a staple. A bird could harvest a wrap for nesting material. You get the idea. Plus, once we send it off for grading, there's always some risk with conservation that CGC denotes our work or materials as not professional, and we could get the plod, the purple label of death. A restored designation would put a discount on the book of 50 to 75% off universal fair market value. In other words, a discount of such a severe degree we would destroy any equity we had in the book and may even be underwater even if we discounted our time to zero, which I do not because my time is very valuable to me. So a lot can go wrong. What is our best case scenario with a conservation? Let's say the conservation project goes great. Everything comes out clean and bright. We repair all the defects that are addressable with archival conservation techniques and don't suffer from any faded inks or broken staples. The cover still has color breaking creases that are going to limit the grade to, at best, the 5.0 to 6.0 range in my opinion, and possibly even lower. After we discount the fair market value by 35 to 50% for the Conserve designation, we're going to end up with the same fair market value as if we just did a quick clean and press and sent it in for universal grade. We can still always perform the conservation in the future if we decide we want to do it. By performing a simple clean and press and having a third party grade and encapsulate the book, we create equity and leave the possibility of conservation for another day. Given all of these considerations, you can see why I chose to simply give this book a quick clean and press and get it off to CGC under the great sale they have for vintage tier. Once I receive this book back, I'll have many options. If I get bored with it, I can flip it for a profit. I can hold on to it if I enjoy it and or think it will appreciate faster than other asset classes available to me. And I can always crack it and conserve it in the future if I think there's equity to be gained by a conservation at some future date. Given all of these considerations, the cost-benefit analysis was pretty easy. In my worst case scenario, I can lose a lot of equity. And in my best case scenario, I'm probably just breaking even with a submission for a universal grade, so my choice here was straightforward. Although my channel is here to demonstrate comic book conservation techniques, an important skill to develop is to know when you probably shouldn't perform a conservation and when it's best to leave well enough alone. That said, if this was your grail and you really wanted this book for your personal collection and wanted to preserve it against the perils of time, it may make perfect sense for you to perform a full conservation. Just recognize that if you choose to do so, you are doing it for your love of the hobby and the comic book, and you are likely creating no or even negative equity in doing so. For me, this was a comic book I thought was interesting from a historical perspective, and I was bidding on other books from the same seller, so I was going to save on shipping if I won, and Hip Comics does not put sales tax on sales unless the seller is in your same state. So I thought I could potentially win this book with a lot of financial upside. It's not within my core collecting goals, so after enjoying it a little while, there's a good chance I'll pass it on to another collector for whom it is. As you can see from the before and after pictures, the dry clean and press we performed gave us a comic book that presents quite a bit better than what we started with. Not as dramatic improvement as we would have enjoyed had we performed a full conservation, but I think an improvement nonetheless. I think this book is likely to grade within the range we estimated that will create a few $100s of equity for our collection, and that was my goal with it. I'll follow up with the unboxing when I get it back from CGC and let you know how we did. In the meantime, please give this video a thumbs up, leave me a comment letting me know what you thought of the decision-making process for clean and press versus full conservation and whether or not you agree, and while you're at it, let me know what you think the grade will come back as. And if you made it this far, then you're a true fan of this sort of content, and I want to call your attention to the 2024 YouTube Comic Book Community Awards. Creating content for YouTube is a labor of love and a way for us to connect with others that share our passion. The awards recognize the incredible amount of work that goes into creating content for YouTube and bringing it to you viewers. I'm humbled and filled with gratitude to have been recognized this year as a finalist, and I'm thrilled to be listed among these other fine channels. Please take a minute and go vote for one of us. Everyone here is doing it for the love of the community. I've put a link in the description to make it easy for you to cast your vote. And if you want more comic book conservation content, check out the live show which airs Sunday evenings at 8:35 Eastern with my co-hosts Captain Larry of Flying L Comics and Phil of Phantom Restoration. Until next time, take care of one another.